Well, how's it going, everybody? Thiccas here, and today's video will be something that has been requested, which is a game plan, or the Panda game plan. And this is definitely a different format. As you can see, this is just me real-time talking. Don't worry, I'll try to be as streamlined as possible, and you can also just skip to the chapters you want to see, because I will just also update everything with like timestamps, because there's quite some things we have to talk about. So with that said, let's just talk about the game plan. So what exactly is a game plan? A lot of people, you hear the term game plan, but a lot of people don't maybe know what exactly that means. So a game plan is for every character a bit different, because everyone has different tools. Everyone has different ways of approach. Everyone has a different kind of criteria they have to reach to get the victory or get the things they want. Like, some characters are more defensive, some characters are more offensive, some characters are more evasive. So with Panda, it's a very good question. How do I even start getting or putting myself in situations that are beneficial for me and rough for the enemy, right? So that's kind of like a game plan. With that said, you have to understand what the neutral means. The neutral is something very important in every single fighting game out there, and it means that when you start round, or when you start the match, you start like this: round one, fight. So what do you do here, right? Do you backdash? Do you mash? Do you go for the low? Do you go for something else? The neutral is very important to understand with Panda, because Panda doesn't really have the best buttons frame data wise, right? Because your low is -1 on hit, as an example here. Your 1-1 is exactly -15. So that already shows you that her buttons are kind of risky, right? You have your 1-2, but that's a dockable high. So let's talk about the neutral with Panda. The thing I recommend the most is backdash and see what the enemy does first, okay? Panda is not the character you can just go in willy-nilly and hope for the best. You can try, you'll get exploded. So don't do that all the time. Just don't do it. This is better not to do it. But Panda's strength definitely lays in her range on some of her key moves, right? You have back 4-2, which is a very clutch button to go for in the open. Do understand though, don't go for this too much because it's a high. But why is this so good? If you backdash, you already input like a back input, right? And since the input is a back forward input, the only thing you have to do is literally like forward and 2, and you get this button. And it's 15 frames, right? It's fast, good range, and it knocks down, right? It knocks down as well. So that already gives you one way to go in, right? After a knockdown. And it's also just safe on block, by the way. On counter, it gets even better. So you space someone out and they press a button. It's a big launch. It's a very hard hitting launcher. So, right, so you can combo from this. Not an optimal combo at all, but look at the damage we do. 50%. Because we space them out and we counter hit launch them. Other tools you can always go for in the open are 2-1. This is just a really safe string to just check people's offense with. And it's also starting at 10 frames, right? So that's already a way you can start or back out and see what the enemy does. If you fight against a more passive player, you do have your running 1+2. Your running 1+2 is absolutely one of the best ways to start your offense to get in. Reasons being, it heat engages on hit, which is good because you're +17 for good mix-ups, or slower hitting but plus on block mids like 4 for 1+2. That's probably one of the best things you can go for here. If they block, +8, right? They can float you out of this, so don't always do this, but you still have other options to cover that. But the thing is, if they block, right? If they block, you're +3 and in their face, okay? +3, and you can either enter into the stance, which is good, or you just go raw like this and you're standing, okay? So this is definitely one of the ways you can just cover the space in an offensive way. But if you want to cover the space in a defensive way, you have this. Back 4-2 as an example. Absolutely, you can also like space out a bit and go for your low, but don't be too telegraphic. Again, it's -1 on hit, -15 on block. So be careful with that. You also have a pretty slow, but it's a rewarding hitting tracking mid, which is up 4-2. As you can see, it's safe, -6, but it has tracking properties. And on hit, you get a lot of cool things if you hit this, right? So if you see that the enemy is more like spacing out, but he's stepping, you know, to maybe counter your running or 1+2 because it's linear, go for this. It's safe, it's mid, and even if you mess up the Oki afterwards, you're still +8 because 4 for 1+2 becomes fully guaranteed afterwards. So that's a way to also get in or space people out. So we already know what kind of game Tekken 8 is. It's all about the aggression. So you have to understand what you should do against aggression. I'm getting, you know, you're trying to apply offense, but they are faster. They have faster buttons. They will stuff you out of your like slower strings or stuff like that. So what do you do against mashy, quote unquote, players? So defensively, I'm gonna be very honest, Panda doesn't have the best sidestep, so you're kind of screwed in that regard. But do understand that you have a 10 frame get off me button, which is 1-2. If you don't want to take that risk, go for 2-1. It doesn't yield a knockdown like 1-2 does, which is unfortunate, but it's still +2 on hits, right? +2 on hits. So you can frame trap with down forward 4 afterwards, or you can go for your frame trap like 1-2. Or if you want to be greedy, but you almost feel like they will press a button back, go for 1-1-1, because that on counter will be a full launch. So I'm gonna try to show an example where Reina is being very oppressive against me, and you can see how 1-2 or 2-1 can be your defensive, hey, get off me option is. So I tried to record a little sequence here, which will be this, and as you can see here, you can just 1-2 out of it. If they if they play overly aggressive against you, don't be afraid to sometimes throw the 2-1 in there or the 1-2. And if you really have a big read, go for the 1-1-1. However, if they do something frame tight, which is a big difference, so let's say they will do the 4-4-2 into Sentai 4 into 1-1, right? Because that's the fastest option she can go for. You will lose, so I'll show you that as well. So we recorded the same sequence, but instead of down forward 1, she'll do 1-1, and this is what happens if you go for the 2-1 to just stop her offense, or 1-1-1. You can see this is physically not possible to interrupt because the frame data just doesn't add up. However, this is one of the best buttons bears have, Panda, Kuma, which is a very good hey, get off me button, because you have a power crush, and your power crush also heat engages. So the best thing you can do here is try and see what they will go for, right? Some strings, they cannot be interrupted with power crush. One of the examples would be like a throw. She has a throw option as well, so that will just hit you. But if you see what the offense is that is a bit too overbearing, try to interrupt with the perfect answer back. So like again, it's either 1-2 or 2-1, or one of the most common things Reina players tend to do, which is this. I think we've all been here before, right? Yeah, don't let her do this. As you can see, that is an official punish. You have options to beat mashy behavior. Isn't the easiest option? Not always. You also really have to know what is the best thing to fight against said issues. And to be honest, the best way to know what you have to do, see what you did wrong and try to find your option. But that's kind of what you have to do against aggressive players. Like, go for interruptions if you can with 1-2 or 2-1. Don't be afraid as well to go for high crushing buttons, like down back 2, right? It isn't plus on hits, but it definitely is a way to crush your highs. So if you know that they do like a lot of high checks, like 1-1, right? Or 2-1 on some characters, you know, like a jab string, you can absolutely go for like a high crush option. So let's say Reina does this a lot, and it's very like oppressive because it's only -1 on block for what I know. Yeah, like the Mishima special, it's always -1 on block. Don't be afraid to just high crush with your down back 2. See, don't be afraid. Use your high crush options. You even have like a big high crushing low. So on hard reads, you can even go for this. And now, we're not getting oppressed anymore, and instead of getting oppressed, we launched her. So that's kind of the basic game plan against mashy players. Know how to interrupt, know how to armor through, or know when to high crush. now we covered defensively Thiccas mashy players. Let's start with the offense, because it can be kind of annoying to fight against people mashing back, right? So let's give a good example with a pretty common situation a lot of bear players tend to mess up at moments, where if you go into a running attack and you go for the low, they might go for like a down for one or a down jab. I think we've all been here before where they mash back at any given moment because I don't want to block, I want to mash. Trust me, it's a common issue because bears on their key moves, they're not plus enough to really condition the enemy for pressing buttons. So they're doing the right thing here. However, you do have your options to fight against mashy enemies. So, as an example, I'm doing the low and they mash a random string and they hit me. Conditioning first. And I know this is a very annoying thing to say because do I really have to apply all these layers? Yes. Unfortunately, Panda is not a character you can just, while running 3-2 with like a Susanna and go from there. You have to see what they will do in return. Versus mashy players, you do have quite some cool frame traps. So one of my favorite one is when you get in, always go for HBS 1. Unless this is against Yoshi, he can flash. But you have options there with HBS 2 or HBS armor, so you have your options there. But against normal players, like normal characters or other characters, HBS 1 is your go-to frame trap. Don't be shy to use HBS 1. It's so good. It's mid, it's 12 frames, so frame data wise, it's uninterruptible, right? Unless they use an evasive button or like a power crush, so be on the lookout for that, right? But against just mashy players, mashing just regular buttons, HBS 1 is really good. Why is this really good? You get a guaranteed 4-2-1, or if you're a bit cool on with the execution, a pseudo charge. For guaranteed 55 damage in the open and +6. And at the wall, it gets even better. A full wall splat into like a full combo. Or you can also go for the pseudo charge tech at the wall if you don't want the wall splat for some reason. There you go. Everything jailed there, +20, and you can enter the stance for like HBS scoop or HBS low, HBS mid, HBS whatever you want, or even roll. So against mashy players, that's one option. But Thiccas, what if they armor back? That is one of the most common things in this game because there are a lot of high heat engaging armor moves, right? So that's where you have to react first, okay? See what they do first. Don't always instantly mash a button. But there's nothing wrong with an option that covers a lot of other options. So that's why HBS 1 is that one option that beats a lot of other mashy retaliations. That's why I recommend HBS 1. However, if they mash armor, you can run up like this. Do not enter the stance because he can choose in between. So that already is kind of like a 50-50 for them. Does he enter the stance or does he not, right? You do this and you just use your command grabs. You have your up for 1+2, as an example, like this. For decent damage and also wall splats at the wall. Wall breaks, wall blasts. Or if you feel gutsy, you can just command grab buffer out of your running attack. These options, those throw options, will beat armor regardless. So let me show you what I mean with this. Okay, so I've been recording Panda doing this specific sequence we just mentioned before, right? The running attack into the grab. So what happens if I armor as Reina? It beats it. And frame data wise, there's not a single power crush beating you, as in being faster than your grab, since, again, you're +3 and your grab is 12 frames. So that means your grab is 9 frames because it's +3, so we'll remove 3 frames out of your 12 frame. So it's uninterruptible with armor. Yes, this also, by the way, works with heat engagers. So when people just heat burst like this, you can't do that. So, like I said, if you see that they armor a lot out of your moments, when you're plus, you have your command grabs. Use them. Grabs are really good in this game to counter one of the most common kind of defensive option, which is armor. in the same kind of energy, we're still talking about frame trapping because it's something people don't really do enough to condition people to be more defensive. Because honestly, this game is all about aggression. So a lot of people tend to mash back, which is in your favor. Of course, it's always in your favor if the enemy is actually mashing back. So what do I imply with this? I think people don't really use their plus frames as efficient as they could. So let's say I'm gonna try and cover a lot of common situations with Panda. You're +2, what do you do? You're +4, what can you do? You're +6, or this, on hit or on block, what are your options? So I'm gonna put her on Mimic. So what that means is she will press a button the moment I press my button, right? So when you're at +2 as an example, after you punish someone with like your 10th frame, or you just hit it because this is just a string to just check what they do. 2-1 into down forward 4 is really nice as a frame trap. 2-1 into 1-2 is also a really good frame trap when they even jab back. So as you can see, I'm mashing 1 with Reina. This will always lose. And the high risk, high reward version is 1-1-1. Very easy to understand. Why I kind of prefer down forward 4 though is because it's a mid. So if they down jab, right? If they down jab here, they can just avoid it, right? Let's just say that was a down jab, but the same idea applies because it high crushes. They cannot do that when I do the mid. They cannot duck it because it's a mid. And the mid leaves you at +7. +7 is really good. Reason being, you can frame trap with a lot of buttons here. You can go for, let's say, one of my favorite is back forward 2. Right? This is a frame trap, so if they mash here, you fully launch them. Same rule applies here. You can just keep it simple again with just 2-1. You can even go for like a down back 2 because it's +7 that makes the low 11 frames, and you high crush, so you beat jab options and you're faster than down forward 1 options. So do understand what you can do with your plus frames, right? So +7 also equals like easy command grab buffers when they press back. Right? And don't forget, if they mash, the throw will be counter. So that means that it's harder to break, right? So do understand that as well. That's one of the common situations, you know, at +2, what do? You can go for down forward 4 or 1-2. The wall running option is also a very common situation. And again, like I said, you know, you have HBS 1 for this. So please don't forget you have HBS 1. It's really good. So what other options do we have here? So let's say you enter roll because, you know, roll has options that are plus on block with roll 1. Don't let people get away with murder here, okay? You have down forward 4 as a very easy check as well. Kind of the same rules apply here, right? So down forward 4, you have down back to 1. But you can see already the weakness here is it's a high, so they can down jab it. But if they do like a down forward 1, yeah, you completely beat them, right? Because it's exactly 14 frames. But again, it's a high, so it's weak versus down jab. So be careful with that. Don't do this too much. This is why I recommend mids. You can also go for hard read and 1+2, right? If they down jab something or if they press a slower button, this is a full frame trap because +4 and 1+2 is 13 frames. So that's already a frame trap as well. Again, same rule applies here. You can also command grab, buffer, and all the other before mentioned frame traps. So what is another situation that is also highly common that people mash back? So we already know the beautiful charge strings, right? +3 on block. So let's put it on block, yeah? What do you do here? There are 2 things you can do here to beat a bunch of options. One of the most common option here is while standing 1. You can already see the reason why, maybe. If they jab back, right? You're +15. What does this mean? Yeah, that's a full launch for you. This is specifically versus jabs. But if she will do something slower, there you go. Your while standing 1-2 string will completely beat them. And with some execution, you can do the pseudo charge stack where on counter, you get a full knockdown. So at the wall, that's even better, because at the wall, it just wall splats. There you go. It fully wall splats. So what other options or what other situations do you have? 4 for 1 plus 2 on block. Same rule applies here. Don't be scared to use your HBS 1. Right? And also, I almost forgot, you know, when you hit your HBS 1-2 on block, right, if they armor, even when you're in crouch, you can still throw them. So, don't forget. If they armor back there, you beat the armor. Because it happens even when I play, they armor a lot, right? But you have your options to still beat armor. Don't forget. If they armor a lot in your offense, or strings, or gaps, you have a throw, and use that throw. Another situation I want to talk about is your full crouch low being +2 on hit. A lot of people might want to mash back with a while standing 4, because it forces crouch. But do not forget, +2 means while standing 4 is uninterruptible. You cannot interrupt this with their while standing 4. But also, if they go for something slower, while standing 1 beats them. And you can do the same pseudo charge here as well. There you go. That's a full knockdown again. But here's the thing. If your while standing 1 trades with the while standing 4, you get a guaranteed 2-1 at the wall. So that's also a thing you really have to consider when you're plus. Use your plus frames. Don't be afraid to go for frame traps, because frame traps are there for a reason. And again, people tend to mash. Okay, cool. Mash against my buttons. I will condition you. This entire idea is, you know, or how this entire idea works, where conditioning is key. And that's when you can apply different layers, which I will cover right now. Which means, what do you do against people being a bit more defensive? So let's say you condition them, right, with this. So they know, okay, I should not press a button here because it's gonna counter hit me and I'm gonna eat all this, and I'm almost at 50% now because fuck, I ate the hit and now he wall splats me and I'm dead. So I'm gonna put everything on block all now. So your options here are very nice as well, but this again is about conditioning. Don't start throwing this out first. Do understand that you have to read first, then commit. So let's go. So let's say I will go for the HBS 1 again and they block me. I am -13. This is why you have to really know what they will do. So what do you do if they block you though and they respect you? HBS has a lot of options, albeit very risky options. So don't do this too much. Be careful with your options, okay? So you can HBS 1 plus 2 into the big low. That is one of the obvious elephants in the room when they are being a bit more passive. Go for your big low, but be careful as it is -15 on block. So don't use it too much. If that is too risky for you, you can also just go for the running 1 plus 2, right? And go for like a safer low, like down back 3. So why is down back 3 a good option here? It's +1 on hit. +1 on hit equals you can frame trap again with 2-1. Becomes uninterruptible unless they have an phase of button or flash. But that still also means that you can do 1-2 as a frame trap, or 2-1, 1-1-1 is also a good frame trap. You can also go for down forward 4. That will be interruptible though if they go for a 10 frame. But if they go for down forward 1, this will beat them, you know, after hitting this on hit. To open up defensive player or people holding back a lot, like I said before, you have your grabs, right? You have your command grabs. You have your safer lows. If you're really feeling it, you can go for bigger lows like down back 4. You also have HBS 1 plus 2 or 4 1 plus 2. Untackable throw, and you get like a guaranteed booty when timed right. And also, this is where the bear kind of shine if you make people fear you. However, these are all mental mind games, like mental plus frames, what you're applying. None of this is real. They can absolutely interrupt you. And that's kind of Panda's game plan, right? Fooling you around with mental plus frame because, oh shit, I hit him here, or he hit me on block, and I mash, and I could counter hit. So I kind of have to respect this now, and now he goes into the roll. So you can go for HB or the while running 1 plus 2, HBS, enter, and just roll into like your mix-ups. So the roll options are like this, the high being +4 on block, you get something guaranteed. The mid option, you get a guaranteed spring kick to combo, and it's plus on block as well. You have a slide for guaranteed booty, and your high risk mid for just a launch. So when they respect you, there's nothing stopping you to go for the roll. But again, be careful. This is a mental stack. You apply a mental stack of a layer, like an offensive layer. Because again, they can completely interrupt your roll, right? They can just do a mid and you float. Or they can armor again, and then, you know, so be careful going for those options from the get-go. Condition them first, then go for your bigger options. Okay, that's kind of that's a little bit of the summary of Panda. So let's talk about the last thing that is pretty important about Panda, which is her heat. Her heat does allow her to open up people even more because her charge moves become like launchers and knockdowns when they land as a counter. So that should be a reason for the enemy to be a bit more defensive. If they're not defensive and they get hit by this, yeah, this is a launcher now, right? And that's a 12 frame mid launcher, and that's almost 60%. That was 60%. So what does the heat mean here, right? Make them fear both options, as in offensive, as in frame traps, or even when they block, they eat a lot of chip. So let me show you how much chip someone can eat after a heat engage, as an example. Heat engage, right? So I'm gonna put him on block now. So block all. Look at the amount of chip damage I can inflict. That was 50% because he blocked. And here's the thing. So now you would say like, okay, but that was interruptible, right? I have to say something. So here's the thing. Yes, it is interruptible, but you have a lot of options to beat the interrupt attempts. So let's say I will do this, and look, if I do this, like the 4 for 1+2, they can jab you out of it. But if they start doing that, no problem, you can just buffer your running attack. And you know what your running attack does in heat? Launch time. It's a launcher. The other option, by the way, so when I go into the 4 for 1+2, I heat engaged and I did a 4 for 1+2. So imagine if they block this, right? So if they block this, is it their turn yet? Absolutely not, because you're +8 and HBS 1 is 12 frames. So when they mash back, they get counter hit. And that will look like this. You lost 70% because you tried to mash back. So, and it doesn't stop here. You see what I'm trying to showcase? When you know how to apply your offense well versus defensive or even offensive players like mashing, or they just block, it's either they lose 50% because of chip, or oops, you mashed at the worst possible moment and now you eat this like 60 to 70%. Because let's just say we heat engage, right? So the 4 for 1+2, and they block this. Nice. Is it my turn yet? So like we mentioned before, if they mash a jab, you're +15. If they mash something slower in heat, right? And this is what happened while standing 1-2 hits on counter. That entire stream becomes guaranteed. And the funny thing is, it doesn't stop here. Right? Because now you would say like, oh, he blocked my while standing 1-2. So now it's my turn, right? You see how it says that Panda's +13 at the wall and +3 in the open? It's not your turn yet. So when they mash back at that moment, you can go for like 1-2 to counter hit them, down for 4. And if they are afraid to press back at that certain moment, you can go for back 1+2. As an example. Because, so let's just say I just do this, right? We'll do this again. And at the wall, on block, it's +18 or +5 in the open. On hit, this fully launches. As you can see, that becomes a launcher. So what exactly do you do against this? Because the charge mechanic sounds kind of broken now. You can interrupt it. So let's say I'm gonna try and mimic between the strings. You see, you can interrupt the string. But you don't have to fully charge your strings. So you can absolutely still go for like a pseudo string charge. So when they try to mash back or interrupt, you can just release your string and it will counter hit. And every single charge string has a counter hit property. So HVS 1, as an example, HVS 1, 2, if the second hit hits as a counter, it's plus 13. And you know what that means. Guaranteed while standing 1, 2. If while standing 1, 2 hits as a counter, the second hit, that is, it will knock them down. You see what I'm trying to say here? Your heat is absolutely the tool you need to really start that oppressive Tekken 8 offense. And I think Panda has a really good heat to start your offense in that kind of way, where if they're defensive and they're holding back, you do chip damage, that almost results into 50% chip. Your HP part, that is. If they mash in between, it's a full launcher or a knockdown wall splat. And if they try to interrupt, you have your second option if you pseudo charge it. So don't fully charge the string. They can step this though. So this is not a foolproof kind of thing you can go for, but adapt around it. You see? A single sidestep and they beat me. So the best thing you can do is like HBS 1 and go for a tracking move. So like up for 2 if they sidewalk hard, or HBS 1 into back for 2 to catch them stepping. So you have options to play against it or around it, which is pretty cool, you know, a character having options to fight against your answers, your own answers. Last but not least, you also have your heat smash, what will always force some sort of mix-up. Even if you don't enter a stance, you're plus 7, so you can go for like a little low, like this. You can go for a simple mid. You can also go for a bigger button if they respect you too much, right? Like 4 for 1 plus 2. And if they mash back, you have your frame trap, because it's plus 7, you have enough frames to work with. You can also enter the bear stance, out of ball, plus 11, so you can go from there. Use your HBS 1 if they mash back, as an example. If they don't mash back, right, you can go for your big low. You can also enter the roll out of it. And also, you can just raw enter roll out of your ball, out of your heat smash. I do really hope this explained a little bit of the game plan with Panda. It's hard to really just summarize everything in a streamlined fashion like this, because there's quite some layers behind this character. This character is not for the faint-hearted that just want to go in and hope that my frame trap works and oh my god, big damage, whoa. No. This character absolutely is more of a see what the enemy does first with your generic, like your layer 1 game plan, which is, you know, check them with like safe, faster mids, like HBS. It's not safe, but it's fast, right? Down for 4, safe. Check what they do, and if you see that they're super aggressive and they want to steal back their momentum and down jab and armor, and then you can go for frame traps, like easy frame traps like mentioned before, or grabs to break their armor, or low poking to like annoy them to make even more mashy mistakes. But if you are a defensive player, this is where you have to use your bigger buttons. Like while running 1 plus 2, go for another one. You know, they're so afraid of the mix-up afterwards. Go for another one, and then they might mash back, where you go for the HBS 1. Or you can go for the big low after the first HBS running attack. So, TLDR, because it's a lot taking in, I know. See what the enemy does first round start. Always backdash, unless it's the hardest read of the entire planet. Backdash and see what they do. If they are super aggressive already and they throw out strings, you'll also have really good tools to whiff punish, okay? Panda is not lacking in the whiff punish department. With, you know, down for 2-1, back for 2 as an example, really good button. If they step a lot, you know, you have up forward 2. But if they are super mashy, you have your get off me button, you know, like 1-2, 2-1, 1-1-1. Armor if they really spam strings with gaps. This, however, is on you as the player to see if they did something you could have interrupted or maybe even stepped. I cannot help you with this. That's just really on your part. Please try and practice this in practice mode when you struggle against a certain matchup, hey, could I stepped it, could I mashed in between to disrespect them back? And offense wise, use the frame data the Panda gives you, okay? Use the frame data the Panda gives you. It's not a lot to work with, but you have options. And we did mention that already before. So I hope you guys like this kind of video. This is definitely a different format than the other guide I made. This, however, is much easier for me to edit and record because that other guide, my first guide, took like a month to make. So I hope this is okay. And if you have any other questions or requests about Panda, you know, hit me up in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to cover it as much as possible or as fast as possible as well. So with that said, I'm peacing out. Thank y'all so much for checking this video, and I hope it helped a little bit, man. Keep the Panda grind alive, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace and love, y'all.